Discover 10 haunted true stories revealed, sinister tales that will curse your sleep forever. The air was thick and oppressive, hanging heavy with a kind of dread that wrapped around Anna's throat like a noose. The night seemed alive with whispers, shadows dancing too close to comfort, curling around the corners of the diner where she worked the graveyard shift. Frantic eyes darted toward each flicker of movement, each creak of the floorboards beneath tired feet. As the clock ticked slowly toward dawn, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, her hands trembling as she served coffee and glanced nervously at the door. One patron in particular caused a chill to slither down her spine. A man with unsettling familiarity, his smile wider than it should have been, eyes glinting like cold steel knives. When Anna finally stepped outside into the brisk air, she thought maybe the world had shifted back to normal. Home, a sanctuary, waited just past the veiled shadows of Maplewood. But when she turned the key in the lock, dread pulled in her stomach. The porch light flickered ominously as she stepped inside. It was too quiet. Photos that had hung on the wall for years had been rearranged. The haunting echo of a weighted silence surrounded her, and her son's favorite hoodie lay discarded on the floor. Her heart raced, confusion clouding her mind. "Jake?" she called, but there was no answer. She had to chalk it up to exhaustion. As she wandered deeper into her home, uneasiness thudded against her ribs. Was she really losing her grip on reality? Or was there something sinister curling beneath the familiar surface of her neighborhood? The idea was hard to swallow. Maplewood was supposed to be safe. The next day, as the sunlight peeked timidly through her curtains, Anna was compelled by a deep instinct to dig deeper into the whispers that wove through all of Maplewood. She stumbled upon tales hidden in backyards, the vibrant flower bed that covered the painful secrets of the Johnsons next door. Joyful laughter masked the yelling from behind those white picket fences. And Mr. Thompson, the pillar of their community, with his charming smile and perfectly tailored suits, painted the most vexing picture. He was the man who organized bake sales, who made the neighborhood feel connected. But as she investigated further, stories pulled up like storm clouds, and the requests to keep quiet grew heavier. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As night draped a sinister cloak over the town, Anna's heart held tight to fear. Jake, usually cocky and full of bravado, sensed the change as if it clung to them like dark smoke. Anna received a text from Mr. Thompson, a message that twisted her stomach into knots. He wanted her to meet about a situation. Galaxy bursts of terror erupted within her as she realized this wasn't just community duty. It felt like a direct summons into a web of darkness. Each step toward the door felt heavier, dread pulling at her feet as she stood on the edge of a precipice. With one final glance into her home, Anna's heart pounded like a war drum. Had she ignored signs too long? Was she truly facing the lurking shadow of Mr. Thompson, or something far worse? As she reached for the handle, icy dread fluttered in her chest. The stillness amplified until it screamed in her ears, smothering her thoughts. Just as it all threatened to engulf her, the door creaked open, and the horror began to unfold. Anna hesitated on the threshold, the night pressing in on her from all sides like a predator stalking its prey. The moment she stepped outside, a sharp wind howled against her, the chill biting deep. The streetlights cast elongated shadows, twisting the familiar into something grotesque. Closing her eyes for a brief moment, she braced herself, feeling every heartbeat pound in her ears. What could Mr. Thompson want at this hour? The thought alone made her skin crawl. He was no ordinary neighbor. In recent whispers, he had taken on a more sinister role, morphing from community leader to something darker, an architect of fear threading through Maplewood. As she walked, the gravel crunched beneath her feet, an unwelcome soundtrack to her descent into uncertainty. Each step pulled her further from safety, and in the growing silence, she noticed the absence of the nightly cacophony. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just her breath, shallow and quick, as she padded to the Thompson house. Its sharp silhouette loomed against the cloudy sky. The porch light was the only beacon, its flickering bulb barely illuminating the path. Anna hesitated once more, breath catching in her throat. "Just get this over with," she muttered under her breath. She knocked on the door, hands clammy, heart racing. A weight laden with despair passed, until finally the door creaked open. Mr. Thompson stood there, eyes glinting in the dim light, a smile creeping upon his lips that crushed all resolve in her chest. "Ah, Anna, so glad you could make it." His voice was smooth, too smooth. The way he rolled her name off his tongue sent a shiver racing down her spine. "Come in, won't you?" Before she could respond, he stepped aside, gesturing her into the shadowy interior of his home. The air inside was thick, heavy with the scent of something stale, almost rotting, and Anna fought the urge to gag. She stepped over the threshold, the moment of decision slipping away as the door shut behind her with an ominous thud. "Your neighborhood has so much potential," he began, his voice dripping with an unsettling charm. Anna clenched her fists, trying to ignore the rising panic. "But some stories need a little extra digging. It's what I wanted to show you." He led her down a dimly lit hallway, walls adorned with muted wallpaper that seemed to pulse under her gaze. "Third door on the left." He opened it, a flick of his wrist illuminating an office brimming with newspapers, files, and something else that made Anna's stomach churn. A scrapbook filled with old photographs. Each image revealed smiling faces, neighbors who once filled the streets with laughter, now twisted with something dark lingering behind their eyes. "What the hell is this?" Anna breathed, a knot of fear tightening in her throat. "These are the secrets of Maplewood," he replied, casually thumbing through the pages. "We all have to keep certain things hidden to keep our peace, don't you think?" He looked at her, eyes sparkling with a mad glint. "But I think it's time we had a little fun." The wallpaper flaked away like forgotten memories, and everything churned dark inside her mind. The very walls seemed to whisper, echoing the horrors trapped inside the pages of the scrapbook. A palpable sense of impending doom hung heavy in the air, pressing against her as Anna realized that Mr. Thompson's games were more than harmless pranks. "Jake!" she gasped, suddenly remembering her son. The mention of him hung like a noose, each syllable echoing despair. As if sensing her dread, Thompson tilted his head, a wicked smile playing across his face. "Ah, yes, your darling boy. I'd hate for anything to happen to him. After all, wouldn't you do anything to ensure his safety?" A cold sweat broke out across her brow, and as she stepped back toward the door, it didn't budge. A lump formed in her throat as she realized the game was just beginning. What price would she pay to find out the depth of Maplewood's darkness? And would she even survive to tell the tale? Anna's heart raced in her chest like a war drum, the realization of her entrapment settling over her like a shroud. The door bore no signs of a handle. It was just an unyielding barrier that echoed her rising panic. "Mr. Thompson, let me out," she pleaded, trying to mask her fear with defiance. "Why would I do that? We haven't even begun," he replied, a smirk creeping onto his face like a spider weaving its web. His words dripped with malice, as if he were savoring her terror. He stepped closer, the scent of decay intensifying, wrapping around her like a noose. The walls of the room pressed in, a claustrophobic womb of secrets and despair. "You see, Anna, knowledge comes at a cost. But we can play a game, one that could decide not just your fate, but Jake's as well." Anna swallowed hard, the name of her son hanging in the air like smoke. "What do you want from me?" "Oh, it's simple, really. You must face the truth about Maplewood's past. I have the key to a treasure trove of knowledge hidden beneath the skin of this unassuming town. You're not the first to seek it. The last one, well, they didn't come back." Her limbs trembled, and she fought those words back. "Where is he?" "Only the walls know," Thompson replied chillingly. "But perhaps you'll uncover what lies beneath. All you have to do is dig deep." "Dig?" The word sent a shudder down her spine. "What do you mean?" He motioned toward the scrapbook, the pages still fluttering like trapped wings. "These photographs are only a glimpse. Each one holds a story, a dark secret begging to be unearthed. But the deeper you go, the more twisted it becomes. There are some truths buried beneath this town that will make your skin crawl." "Why should I believe you?" "Because, my dear, your love for Jake holds power. If you wish to keep him safe, you must play along. Consider it a test of devotion." He stepped back, granting her room, but keeping her cornered in reality. The dim light reflected off the scrapbook, its pages beckoning like sirens. With trembling hands, Anna brought one of the photographs closer. A smiling family, but with blank stares, hollow and lost. What happened to these people? The question slipped from her lips without thought. Ah, they became part of the history, victims of their own secrets. And perhaps sooner than you think, you'll join them. He leaned closer, eyes gleaming. "Let's say, for every truth you unveil, a memory of yours may dim. But those who don't pay heed, well, they disappear entirely." The tension twisted, tightening around her throat like a vice. She felt the walls shifting, pressing in, the shadows of the room bending and stretching. The air thickened, swirling with a foul scent as fear clawed at the back of her mind. "I can't do this," she whispered, her resolve crumbling. "Ah, but you can, Anna. The night is still young, and I have all the time in the world," Mr. Thompson replied, his voice dancing eerily in the depths of her fear. Anna's pulse quickened. Where was Jake? What had she stumbled into? Was it too late to turn back? "Just one more thing," Thompson said, with a touch of mockery. "You must choose wisely. Each truth has a price, and some linger long after you think you've uncovered them." The shadows elongated further, enveloping her as dread rooted her in place. The world outside the house seemed to both exist and not, echoing with a silence too loud to ignore. Her fingers hovered over the scrapbook, the next move weighing heavily in the air. Which truth would she unveil first? And in doing so, what darkness would awaken? Anna's breath caught in her throat as the first tendrils of fear snaked around her heart, tightening their grip. Anna's fingers quivered as she continued to hover over the photographs. Each image seemed to pulse with its own energy, a haunting resonance that thrummed against her fingertips. It felt like a pact being formed, one that neither she nor Thompson could retract. "What is this?" She stared down at the first photograph she chose, a sepia-toned snapshot of a crumbling house with warped windows, ivy coiling around its base, almost as if trying to drag it back into the earth. Shadows, indistinguishable shapes, clung to the corners of the image as if alive. Ah, the old Carter house. Thompson leaned in. His breath lingered, a rotten mist that made her stomach churn. It's said that upon the first night of every month, just as the clock strikes midnight, the house reveals its past. You're a mother, Anna. You must know that some secrets are far darker than others. She felt the room shift, the contours of the walls blurring, swirling like a dream she couldn't wake from. The air rushed out of her lungs. The last thing she needed was to be lured deeper into this nightmare. But Jake? Tell me what happened there, she demanded, her voice trembling despite the bravado. 2 children vanished on a night just like this, Thompson replied, his tone soft yet cutting. Their screams mingled with the wind, and they were never found. Some say they remain, trapped between worlds, waiting for someone to set them free. Anna's mind spiraled, 1,000 scenarios churning through her thoughts. Abduction? Rituals? The stories that circulated in town felt too surreal. They were dismissed as urban legends, but now they were visceral, darkened truths she was practically suffocating in. "What do you want from me?" she gasped, realizing too late that she'd lose control. With each revelation, she felt the shadows nestle deeper into her spine. Thompson's grin widened, as if she'd unwittingly given him more power. "The card deck is stacked against you, dear Anna. Buy enough time to unveil the truth of the Carter house, and you may find clues leading to your son." Time. The concept twisted in her mind. Does she have enough time to find Jake? The thought nearly allowed her to spin out of control. "Enough with the riddles," she shouted, desperation flooding her voice. "Ah, but riddles are the key, aren't they? Choose another photograph, and let's see what truths scream to be unburied next," he encouraged, almost teasing, like a cat playing with its prey. Anna instinctively reached for another photo, her fingers brushing over rough paper. This image depicted a narrow street lined with evergreens, but there was something unsettling about its emptiness, the way the shadows loomed as if waiting for her to pick a wrong step. With resolve stealing her spine, she flipped it cautiously. A figure lurked amongst the trees, a child's silhouette, bent and broken, the face obscured. "No!" She stepped back. What does this mean?" "Perhaps you'll find your answers soon enough," Thompson murmured, his voice dripping with sarcasm and delight. "Or perhaps you're already too late. The darkness has a way of twisting the truth until it shatters." A chill coursed through her as dread washed over her like ice water. Was this a reflection of Jake? Would choosing to uncover the truth mean losing him forever? "What if I refuse?" she pleaded, the air thick with dread. But refusal only ensures you wander in a fog of despair," he warned. "Unveil or lose. The choice, dear Anna, remains yours." Everything around her trembled, a furious wind, a whispers of memory echoing suddenly loud in the quiet. With the clock nowhere in sight, but the night deepening, Anna felt eyes upon her, unseen, waiting and watching. How deep must she go to keep her son safe? A knock reverberated from outside the room, echoing against her soul. Was it Jake? And as panic surged anew, so did the haunting realization that time was slipping away. Would she find the strength to face the darkness, or would she be another echo lost to the void? The knock echoed again, a silent scream that pierced through the suffocating tension. Anna felt her heart race, a drum pounding in her ears, drowning out any rational thought. Was it Jake on the other side? The frantic hope ignited a desperate surge deep within her.
She moved toward the door, each step heavy and laden with uncertainty. "Anna," Thompson hissed, his whisper a cold caress against her ear. "This is not your time to leave. You haven't yet uncovered the truth." But she couldn't bear to listen. Mom instincts kicked in hard. She grasped the doorknob with trembling fingers, twisting it slowly, listening for any sign of Jake beyond the threshold. The wood felt as if it were burning her skin, the warm heat morphing into a sharp chill. The door creaked open, and her breath caught. The hallway was empty. No Jake. Just deeper shadows lapping at the edges of the warm glow that barely lit the room. She leaned out, peering into the darkness, and felt a pulse of dread that made her stomach twist. "Where are you?" she called, her voice trembling yet assertive. Panic rippled through her with each passing second. "Jake!" Silence answered, thick and suffocating. Then a soft rustle, almost like laughter, echoed down the hall. It sent shivers crawling over her skin. "Go deeper, Anna," Thompson urged, his presence looming closer. She could feel him behind her, his breath hot against her neck. "The truth is waiting. The answers you've sought lie beyond the veil. But you must hurry." Hesitation clawed at her heart, but she also felt a whisper of determination. She couldn't find Jake if she cowered in fear. Without thinking, she stepped back inside, grabbing another photograph, her fingers brushing over the surface as if it could guide her, could shield her from the growing darkness. This time, she chose a photo of the Carter house, but it was different. The house loomed larger, more grotesque. Shattered windows looked like empty eye sockets, and the sky above was menacingly dark. "What are you hiding?" Anna spoke aloud, as if challenging the photograph itself. She flipped it over, and a chill enveloped her when she saw scrawled words in faded ink. "Those who seek will find, but not all may return." A knot formed in her stomach. Return? What could that mean? "See," Thompson said, his voice dripping with a mix of arrogance and malice. "You've started the journey. The children's screams haven't silenced Anna. Don't be foolish to think that they have. They echo for someone." Another knock banged against the door, much louder this time. It rattled against its frame, vibrating through the air. "Mom!" a voice cried out, full of anguish. It was Jake. "Jake!" she screamed, rushing back to the door. The cold air of uncertainty brushed against her skin, filling her with dread. "Mom, I need you!" The urgency in his voice sent waves of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She threw the door open, not caring about the consequences, ready to dive into whatever lay beyond. The hallway was empty once again, but now a cold breeze whipped through, chilling her to the bone. And in that breeze, she felt it, a whisper, serpentine and seductive. "Come and play," it hissed, twisting like smoke in the air. "Where are you?" she shouted, stepping into the dark. Shadows danced like phantoms, teasing the corners of her vision. She could sense it now, the darkness pulling at her from all sides, feeding on her fear. Footsteps echoed behind her, but when she turned, nothing was there. The space warped, the familiar hallway shifting, morphing into a grotesque version of itself. Her heart raced. "Anna, please!" Jake shouted again from the distant shadows, the sound bouncing off the walls like a haunting melody. She stepped forward. Then another step. A sliver of hope ignited in her chest. There, at the end of the hall, a dim light flickered. It called to her, luring her closer. But as she moved, the atmosphere thickened. A sharp gasp escaped her lips. The walls seemed to close in, smothering her with a stench of decay.
Keep moving, or lose him, Thompson's voice echoed, mingling with the shadows. She pressed on, through the dark labyrinth, each step a gamble between light and suffocating despair. The truth awaited her, but at what cost? And as she reached for the light, a piercing scream shattered the silence. Was it Jake, or a warning from beyond? The choice loomed, heavier than ever. Uncover the truth, or face the shadows alone. All will be revealed soon enough. A voice lingered behind her, the promise hovering like a suffocating cloud. What would she find at the end? And would it lead to Jake, or something even worse lurking in the dark? Anna's heart thundered in her chest, the pulse echoing in her ears as she fought against the overwhelming dread suffocating her senses. The flickering light at the end of the hallway winked, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. With each step forward, the shadows warped, stretching out like dark fingers trying to pull her back into their embrace. "Jake!" she cried again, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, lurking just out of sight. The whispering voices swirled around her like a malevolent mist, their laughter slicing through the thick air like a knife. "Do you really want the truth, Anna?" Thompson's voice curled at the edges of her consciousness, sharp and cunning. "Are you prepared for what you might uncover?" But there was no time for doubt. She had to reach Jake. Her instincts as a mother drove her past her own rising terror. With renewed determination, she sprinted toward the light, each hurried step echoing in the empty corridor. As she neared it, the light expanded, glowing brighter, revealing the shape of a room she recognized, the sitting room from the Carter house. Except it was twisted, grotesque, as if steeped in the very essence of despair. The walls dripped with dark stains, and furniture lay strewn about in disarray, like victims caught in a violent struggle. The air was thick, cloying with the scent of mildew and something else, something metallic. With a tremor, she stepped inside, the warmth of the light enveloping her in a deceptive comfort. It was too quiet. "Jake," she whispered, the word hanging in the air, brittle and fragile. Suddenly, the television flickered to life, static hissing like an angry snake. The screen warped and twisted until faces came into view. Children, their eyes wide and haunted, mouths jittering silently. A chill slithered down Anna's spine. "Mom, help!" Jake's voice sliced through the cacophony of the screen, desperation laced in every syllable. "Where are you?" she screamed, desperate now. But as she reached for the television, the static grew louder, overwhelming her senses, drowning out Jake's cries, until they morphed into dark laughter, mocking her, taunting her failure. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The room fell silent, and then a child's voice broke through the stillness, high and eerie. "You shouldn't have come here, Anna. You have to leave." "Leave?" she repeated, panic swelling within her chest. "I can't leave without my son." In that moment, the darkness seemed to deepen, wrapping around her like a living entity. She could feel it pressing in, squeezing her, as if trying to force its way inside her mind. Thompson's laugh bubbled up from within the shadows, rich and cruel, filling her with an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. Behind her, something stirred. She turned, heart racing, and froze at the sight. A figure cloaked in shadow, its features obscured, melded with the darkness. An unsettling grin split its face, eyes glinting with malice. "Anna!" The voice was thickened, distorted.
"You seek the truth? Then let the shadows guide you." The figure stepped forward, and Anna could feel a coldness radiating from it, chill running down her spine. "Your son is very close, but if you want him, you must pay the price." "What do you want?" Her voice trembled, a mix of defiance and fear. "Only what you owe, what you've always owed." As it extended a hand toward her, the shadows pulsed around them, closing in tighter. Anna could hardly breathe, the darkness thickening, tugging at her, drowning out the world. Desperation clawed at her throat. Could she become the next victim of this curse? And suddenly she felt it, a finger of ice grazing her skin. With a heart-stopping realization, she knew the truth was within reach, yet it came with a harrowing cost. She took a breath and faced the figure, resolve flooding her senses. "Then show me the way." As the shadows twisted and writhed around her like creatures of the night, she made her choice. But deep within, a voice cried out against the danger, echoing ominously in her mind. What would she lose to discover the depth of her own darkness? With a final push, she stepped toward the figure, the abyss opening wide before her. What awaited her at the heart of the shadows? Would she reclaim Jake or lose herself forever to the darkness creeping ever closer? The moment Anna stepped forward, the shadows writhed, twisting around her ankles like venomous serpents. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the ominous whispers swirling above her. The figure stood before her, its eyes shimmering with a ghastly light, inviting her deeper into the darkness. "Come, Anna," it crooned, the words slithering in the air. "The truth waits for you. All you have to do is surrender." Surrender. The word felt like a weight pressing down on her resolve. Memories of Jake flickered in her mind, the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his embrace. She shut her eyes tightly, fighting against the panic rising like bile in her throat. The darkness around her pulsed, alive with the energy of despair, and she could almost hear it breathing. "Jake!" she gasped, desperation twisting her words into a plea. "Where are you?" The figure tilted its head, a grotesque semblance of understanding distorting its features. "You must decide, Anna. Will you forsake your past to save him?" Anna's pulse raced. The past was riddled with regret, each failure carving deeper into her soul. But to lose Jake, the thought made her stomach churn. "What do you mean? I can't just give up everything. I just want my son." "Everything comes with a cost," it hissed, inching closer, pulling her into its chilling embrace. "What price are you willing to pay?" The room tilted, shadows stretching like a hungry maw, eager to engulf her. Cold fingers gripped her wrist, sending sparks of ice through her veins. Memories crashed over her, of loneliness, lost dreams, and haunted nights. Each recollection felt like chains binding her, dragging her down into the depths of despair. "Jake!" she shouted again, this time with rage fueling her voice. "I will find you, I swear!" With each declaration, the grotesque room began to shift. The furniture rearranged itself, forming arches and doorways that seemed to lead into darkness. A sound echoed, soft at first, barely a whisper, then rising into a cacophony of children's laughter. Tension thrummed in the air, thicker now, as if it had a heartbeat of its own, one that synchronized with her own frantic pulse. "What is this?" Anna demanded, pulling back from the figure's grasp. "What are you keeping from me?" "Your truth," it replied, a hint of malicious delight in its tone. As it spoke, the shadows around her morphed, twisting into horrific faces. Ghostly images of lost children, their mouths wide in silent screams, their eyes tracing the periphery of Anna's anguish. She staggered backward, her breath coming in ragged gasps. This was not what she wanted, not this nightmare, this twisted reflection of her fears. "I don't want this." "Too late for that, Anna.
the voice purred, each syllable dripping with cruelty. You've come too far. Your darkness now belongs to me. Suddenly, the room began to shift violently. The walls buckled, shadows converging until they formed a swirling mass enveloping her. She struggled, a primal scream escaping her lips, but her voice was swallowed by the tempest of darkness. But in that swirl, a glimmer caught her eye, a flicker of light behind the shadowy figure. No, behind the shadows themselves. Something about it felt warm, alive. Could it be Jake? Jake! She shouted, lunging forward toward the light, ignoring the iciness of the darkness trying to hold her back. The figure roared in anger, its voice a thunderclap resonating through the room. Fool, you will pay dearly for your foolishness. Anna felt the tug of shadows wrap tighter around her, but she pushed against them, heart racing as she reached for the light. This was her only chance. This was Jake's only chance. She couldn't fail now. And just as her fingers brushed the warm glow, everything froze. The laughter ceased. The shadows halted. Where there was darkness, now glimmering hope flickered. But at what cost? Anna's thoughts crashed against her resolve. What had she awakened? A blinding flash erupted as she made contact, bright and overwhelming. Anna gasped, teetering on the edge of an unknown realm. Had she made the right choice? In that moment, she felt the first pang of something very dark unfurling within her, and she knew there was no going back now. What sinister truth awaited her when the light faded? Would she find Jake, or had she unleashed something she couldn't contain? The brilliance of the light enveloped Anna, wrapping around her like a cocoon. For a heartbeat, she felt suspended between two realities, the agony of the darkness and the hope of the light. Memories cascaded through her mind more vividly than ever. Jake's laughter, his small hand gripping hers, his bright eyes sparkling with innocence. But as the light dimmed, dread crawled up her spine. The warmth that once soothed now felt like a warning. Shadows squealed in protest, their whispers becoming wails, shrieking as if she had torn a hole in their suffocating veil. She stumbled backward, the familiar darkness reasserting itself with a force that sent her sprawling onto the cold ground. The figure loomed closer, its eyes burning like embers in the night. "You thought you could escape," it hissed, the malicious glee dripping from every syllable. "No!" Anna cried, scrambling away, her breath quickening. Panic clawed at her throat. "I won't let you take him!" But shadows writhed around her, a torrent of despair and rage. The air thickened, swirling with a malevolence she could almost touch. The room shifted, transforming into a twisted playground, Jake's playground. The swings creaked in the stillness as silhouettes of lost children flitted just beyond her vision, their laughter mocking her. She turned, but every corner she glanced at was swallowed by darkness. "Jake!" she screamed, voice cracking. "I'm coming for you!" But shadows writhed around her, a torrent of despair and rage. The air thickened, swirling with a malevolence she could almost touch. The room shifted, transforming into a twisted playground, Jake's playground. The swings creaked in the stillness as silhouettes of lost children flitted just beyond her vision, their laughter mocking her. She turned, but every corner she glanced at was swallowed by darkness. "Jake!" she screamed, voice cracking. "I'm coming for you!" A chilling echo of her own words returned, bouncing off the walls. "For you, for you." The figure loomed again, its breath cold and rancid, scattering any remnants of her feeble hope. "You're too late, Anna. He's already lost." "No, he can't be!" She pressed her palms against her ears, willing the sound of the laughter to fade. But it wrapped around her, thickened until it was suffocating. The shadows' cartoonish faces stretched into grotesque smiles, their eyes beckoning. Accept your darkness, the figure urged, lips curling in a leering smile. What you fear most is your destiny. Anna's mind spun. What did it mean? Forsake her past? Betray her memories? Her breath quickened. She couldn't. She wouldn't. I'll search until my last breath, she bellowed defiantly. With a scream of rage, the atmosphere trembled as shadows surged towards her, reaching out like a million grasping hands. Each icy touch burned through her, pulling her deeper into despair. She fought against it, heart hammering, eyes searching for any glimmer of hope. Then she heard it, a faint, fragile voice, piercing through the cacophony, calling her name. "Mommy, help me." Her heart stopped, an electric jolt of recognition sparking through her body. "Jake!" She surged toward the sound, eyes wider, her own voice trembling with urgency. "I'm coming! I'm right here!" The room convulsed around her, dwelling in chaos. The shadows screamed as if in pain. The playground began to warp, flickering in and out of reality, merging with unrecognizable dark landscapes. "Foolish woman," the figure spat, furiously grasping for her as darkness closed in. "You're playing a dangerous game." Anna felt that pang of darkness grow inside her, swirling with the promise of power, seductive. The warmth of the light faded, slowly replaced by the suffocating familiarity of despair. But she clung to the sound
of her son's voice, the last tether binding her to hope. "No, I will not lose him!" The figure screeched, a sound that shook the very foundations of her reality. Shadows writhed, forming swirling vortexes that beckoned her, trying to drown out Jake's voice. All she saw was the brilliance of his innocence shining through the gloom. "Stay with me, Jake!" But the voice was getting fainter, intertwined with darkness as a thick mist crept in, coiling around her like a predator. She braced herself, gritting her teeth against the anguish steadily flooding her senses. What would she be willing to sacrifice? But there was no time to ponder as the shadows tightened, pulling her in, ready to swallow her whole. The figure cackled, a sound of triumph that chilled her to the bone. Then she lunged forward once more, determined to grasp the essence of her son, the flickering light amid the darkness. But could she truly step into the abyss and fight back what awaited? What awaited Anna was more than she ever feared. What truth was she about to unearth? Would she find Jake, or was she destined to sink into the very terror she fought against? The darkness pushed in on all sides, thick and suffocating. Anna's lungs burned as she fought against the shadows, heart racing with the raw urgency of a mother's love. Each breath felt like a betrayal, drawing her deeper into the gloom, while she strained to catch another sound from the fading voice of her son. "Jake!" she called out again, her voice falling flat against the oppressive silence. The figure twisted in response, delight dancing in its flickering gaze. "You're losing yourself, Anna," it taunted, its voice slithering through the tangible shadows. "You're sacrificing everything. For what?" "Shut up!" Anna screamed, refusing to cower. The shadows tightened, their icy fingers clutching at her arms, pulling her down into the void. Panic propelled her forward, desperation thrumming in her veins. She stumbled, gasping as she fought to stay upright. A chilling lantern light flickered nearby, slicing through the shadows. She turned toward it like a moth, hope igniting a fire in her chest. Was that the entrance, or more of this labyrinth she was trapped in? "Mommy!" The cry was soft, almost a whisper. It seeped through the darkness, pulling at her heartstrings.
The play on her mind became unbearable, and with renewed vigor she charged into the illuminated space, shoving aside smoke-like tendrils that lashed at her. Her foot hit solid ground, and she spun around. The playground! But it was wrong. The swings were rusted, crying out against the stillness, and the ground was cracked, a graveyard of sorrow. There, seated on the swing, was a shadowy shape, head hunched low. A wave of sick dread washed over her. "Jake!" The figure jerked up, the swinging motion unveiling a familiar form. But as the details came into focus, Anna stumbled back, heart pounding against her ribcage. It wasn't Jake. Inky
Blackness dripped down the figure's arms, pooling like spilled ink on the dusty ground. The child's eyes, once bright, were now voids of despair, mirroring everything Anna feared. "Mommy, you've been gone forever," the apparition whispered sweetly, a twisted smile curling its lips. "You abandoned me." "No," Anna fell to her knees, grief seizing her. "I'd never leave you. I'm here. I'm right here." "Are you, though?" the figure questioned, its voice a melody of hurt and anger. "How much of yourself are you willing to lose to save me? What are you willing to give?" The shadows writhed, feeding on her turmoil. They hissed and chattered, drowning out her screams as despair pooled within her. "No," she cried, "I won't accept this. I can find you." But each time she reached out, the spirit shimmered away, floating just out of grasp. The figure grew fainter, its laughter echoing around her, each reverberation piercing her heart deeper. Anna's resolve crumbled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, come back." At that moment, within the horrible confusion, a memory ignited. A small hand slipping into hers, the warmth of a shared joke, the simple, pure joy of a day spent together. Anna squeezed her eyes shut, channeling that love. The darkness recoiled, momentarily faltering, as hope surged within her. "I am not done. I won't stop fighting for you." The shadows hissed louder, the figure jerking as it began to dissolve. "Then face the truth," it rasped, "and find out who you've really become." With the finality of its sentence, the world distorted. The playground twisted into a nightmarish vision, each element warping, reshaping around her. She gasped, holding on to the thread of Jake's laughter that lingered just out of reach, like a glowing ember in a storm. The darkness convulsed, writhing around her, a maelstrom of dread, while Anna steadied her breath. The way forward felt uncertain, but one thing was clear: she would confront whatever terror lay ahead. But in the recesses of her mind, questions loomed. Was she truly ready to face the reality of what it meant to seek her son? Or would this quest lead to an even darker fate? As the shadows twisted, Anna prepared for a battle she never anticipated, a battle with herself. What would she discover when she stared into the abyss? The darkness surged around Anna, pressing in on her senses, transforming the playground into a chaotic storm of shadows. Her memory spiraled like leaves caught in a whirlwind, blurring into a frantic mosaic of all the moments with Jake she'd fiercely clung to. Tears streamed down her face, vulnerability crashing against the steady resolve she'd fought so hard to maintain. "Face the truth," the figure's haunting voice echoed ominously. Each word hung in the air like an executioner's blade, threatening to sever the last threads of hope. What you truly are, what you've given up for love. "No," she shouted defiantly, the fire igniting within her unmistakably fierce. "I'm not giving up anything."
"I am his mother, and I will fight for him!" With every heartbeat, the shadows shrieked and recoiled, amplifying her panic. Each flicker of darkness twisted, molding into memories, flashes of laughter, heartwarming moments, and horrendous regrets. Her breath quickened as she lunged forward, eyes searching desperately for any sign of Jake amid the chaos. The chilling winds howled with laughter, as if mocking her effort. The playground morphed grotesquely, slides bending into spiraling towers of despair, and swings swaying to an eerie rhythm that echoed the cries of lost children. Then, at the very edge of her vision, a flickering light formed in the distance, illuminating the shadows momentarily. It felt like a beacon, guiding her back to the place where she last felt whole, the playground she built for Jake, a sacred sanctuary of love. "Stay with me," she pleaded, racing toward the light, knowing it was her only hope of finding him. As she neared, the brightness grew more brilliant, slicing through the overwhelming darkness. Shadows lashed out, clawing at her, trying to pull her back into the depths where despair thrived. But Anna was relentless. She could hear Jake's laughter echoing off the walls of her memory, propelling her forward. "Mommy!" The cry pierced her heart, a beacon of hope that drowned out the cacophony. She burst through the last line of shadows, and suddenly she was back at the butterfly-painted playground, the sun shining brightly above, casting warmth and safety around her. Relief flooded her senses, but dread crept in quickly. What if this was just an illusion? The shadow's snare still lurked just outside her sight. "Jake!" she screamed, desperation vibrating in her voice as tears mingled with the dust beneath her knees. The world shifted hazily, and for a moment there was a stillness. Then she saw him. In the center of the playground, Jake stood, looking up at her with wide eyes that sparkled with innocence despite the bleakness surrounding them. "Mommy!" His face was lit with a radiant smile that melted Anna's heart, but also opened a wound in her soul. She could see it, the inky darkness smeared around him like a smothering blanket. "Jake!" she cried, rushing forward to embrace him, but the shadows whipped around them, pulling Jake back just out of reach. A piercing scream rattled her, and instinctively she knew that she was wrestling with much more than shadows. "Mom!" Jake wailed, stepping closer, but the darkness held firm, clawing at his small figure and stealing the light from his eyes. "No!" Anna roared, voice tinged with raw anguish. She fought against the oppressive weight of the shadows, her love surging like a tidal wave against the darkness clinging to her son. "Everything comes at a cost," the shadow figure snickered, creeping back into view. "What are you willing to sacrifice, Anna?" Gathering her strength, Anna glared defiantly at the looming figure. "I will give anything, but not my son." "Then you must accept the truth. Deep
Down, you know the answer." It leaned closer, a chilling grin painting its ghostly face, trying to penetrate the walls of Anna's heart. What did you leave behind for the sake of safety? What sacrifices bleed through the fabric of your heartbreak? "No!" she screamed, hands balling into fists. The shadows writhed, and in that moment she realized her own darkness was the very thing preventing her from reaching Jake. "Let's uncover you together," the figure taunted, sinking into the swirling shadows, letting them swirl around Anna delicately, testing her resolve. "Are you ready to see the truth?" Sweeping her hand forward, Anna gritted her teeth. "Show me." In that commanding moment, the darkness coursed inwards like a maze revealing its secrets. Memories erupted in full color. The times she missed picking up Jake from school. Her absorbed phone calls that had made him feel alone. The way despair colored her decision to keep things quiet in Maplewood. "No, I just wanted to protect him,"
she cried, her heartache tearing through every fiber of her being, agony morphing into resolve. She was far from perfect, but she wouldn't falter now. The shadows recoiled, their laughter subsiding, their cruel features morphing into something bittersweet. "In your heart lies the key," they cooed. "Admit it and break the hold." Slowly, Anna stepped back from the abyss, away from the figure, straightening her spine, her expression steely. "I've made mistakes. I am not infallible. But I would rip apart time and space to save him." The shadows convulsed violently, the air thick with disbelief. "Such strength," they hissed. "But can you embrace the darkness within your own soul?" She felt the shadows creep back, but she stood taller, channeling every ounce of love she had for Jake. "Together we can overcome. I will not let you win." With a shout, she pivoted, her heart blazing brightly. She reached for Jake, desperately stretching her hands toward him. "We are not lost." And in that moment, the light exploded, a brilliant flash of warmth enveloping her, wrapping around Jake and dissolving the darkness that sought to entrap them both. As the shadows dissipated like fog in the sunlight, Anna locked eyes with Jake. "Mommy," he smiled, eyes sparkling with the innocence that melted the chains around her heart. "You found me." With a deafening roar, the last remnants of darkness shattered, scattering like ash across the wind, leaving peace in their wake. Pulling Jake into her arms, she felt the weight of everything lifting as the shadows finally released their grip. This time they were free, untethered from the haunted whispers of Maplewood, ready to create a brighter tomorrow. "Let's go home," Anna said, her voice a soft promise. Together, hand in hand, they stepped into the sunlight, leaving behind the darkness that had tried to claim them. And though Maplewood was still coated in mysteries, they now bore the strength of hope, a hope that together they could see the light as long as they remained united. This was only the beginning of their journey. The shadows lay quiet, retreating into whispers, waiting for another chance. But Anna, fiercely protecting her son, had begun to rewrite the narrative of fear that once blanketed their lives. They turned, walking toward the horizon, ready to embrace the future, whatever it may bring. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the town of Maplewood in warm hues, Anna held her son a little closer, feeling a sense of peace settle around them. From that moment on, Anna would carry their story, a reminder that even in the depths of despair, love battles fiercely against the darkness. But they had a new battle ahead now, a journey of survival untold. And she vowed to never let shadows dictate their tale again. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories and join this thrilling adventure. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything to keep this channel alive. Flood the comment section. I want to hear about your theories and reactions. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's keep the story living on together.